get in here. I'm gonna sit down with you. Be able to sit down here and go over some notes. Let's see. Am I gonna be just about level? There we go. There we go. Perfect. Wait for some people to come in, and got my notes, my court notes here, ladies and gentlemen, to go over with you some things of interest. Got my reserved sign, so hopefully nobody comes in and bothers me. I've commandeered one of the conference rooms here, ladies and gentlemen. You know, so let's see, hopefully get some people in here. I'll give it another few seconds here, about 30 seconds or so, and we'll get started. Let the notifications go out, hopefully, if they do. You know, some people have told me they didn't get the notification in my last live stream. Oh, all right, we got somebody. We got Crafty Craft, LOL. Thank you for tuning in. Here's somebody. So let me make sure I get my place here. My notes. Oh, yes. Here's my bookmark. There it is. So where is Troy? Let's begin with there we go. So I don't lose my place and where a trial starts. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we've been about a minute and a half now. Hopefully got some people in here. So I'll go ahead and begin the update. Well, basically, for those who have been following along on my channel, this is the People versus Saudi Coleman. This is a matter involving the defendant, Saudi Coleman. He's accused of murder and attempted murder in regards to an event that happened on February 2nd of 2022, in which a Greyhound bus stopped here in Oroville, and it's the word I'm looking for, in what appears to be a mental episode on Mr. Coleman's part, resulted in a tragedy in which he shot one woman dead and wounded 4 others in regards to his shooting. So now, fast forward 2 years, we're here now. He pled not guilty, and he didn't put the NGI plea in because the NGI not guilty by reason of insanity, because he was found to stand trial competently. So now we've gone through the trial. Just about, I want to say 20 minutes ago, the jury went to deliberations. So we may have a verdict by the end of the day. If not, the next day court for this matter is in session again will be Thursday if they cannot reach a verdict today by 4:30. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be back later announcing the verdict. But as of right now, the jury is in deliberations, and we're on verdict watch, watching and waiting for the jury to deliver the verdict. In regards to the trial, there's been some interesting moments. I'd say arguably the most interesting moment of this trial is when the defendant, Mr. Coleman, took the stand in his own defense and testified, which arguably was, in my opinion, one of the shittiest shit shows of a witness testimony I've ever seen in regards to your own defense on both of the defendant, the DA, and his public defender. And I say that, ladies and gentlemen, because, well, usually when a defendant that I've seen in cases testifies and they have their own public defender, usually the public defender will have the defendant get up on the stand, or attorney, whichever legal counsel you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be a public defender if you're wealthy enough to retain private counsel. They get the defendant up there, they ask them questions, just like they would be asking a witness. The defendant answers. They usually don't let the defendant, like in this case, just get up on the stand and ramble on. I mean, as much as the defendant was trying to, explain his side of the story, if you will, it felt more like just a all over the place ramble. It didn't seem like he was prepped in any way to speak to the jury. He just, was natural, if you will. No, ready, no prep, no, without getting into YouTube violation of policies. He started saying some words, like a gangster, if you will. A gangster speaks. Words that I can't really say on YouTube, because if I say his specific word too many times, this video could get flagged. but let's just say that's a word, this word that he was using pretty much, I wouldn't say every sentence here and there, but it came up a few times in describing, what a type of person is. But besides, some four-letter words here and there was that certain word that I could, you can only use if you're a certain tone of skin to say, if you will. Let's put it that way without getting, I know what word it is. I'm sure some of you out there know what word it is, but because of YouTube, if I say, I can say some certain words on here, but if I say that word too many times, this video might get flagged for hate speech. But it was, that word this, that word that, there were some crazy that words on this bus, it was full of crazy that words, so it felt more like, it was just not really, if this is how you want to talk to a jury, ladies and gentlemen, I would recommend not using curse words and racial words. You want to be articulate, you want to be very communicative without sounding, gutter in your talk, if you will. In regards to the defendant. Now, in regards to the DA, he seemed to take this personally, this case. I've noticed his behaviors, seem to be coming from a personal, something like, he's not treating this as a job, but like he's got something personal going on in this case. I can't really tell if that's just his nature, as no DA is like the other. They all have their own personalities, so I'm not sure if this is just his personality, ladies and gentlemen, or he's got something going on. But during this statements by the defendant in his own defense, when it was time for the DA to cross-examine him, they argued constantly. Mr. Coleman didn't want to answer questions at certain points, and they got into a banter back and forth to the point where the DA was talking over Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman was talking over the DA to the point where I don't think that the court reporter could objectively say that during that time that she has an accurate transcript of what was being said, because they were talking over each other. At no point did the judge did step in at one point and tell him, a few times, tell Mr. Coleman he needs to behave himself, but not to any significant point where there was an admonishment that both of you guys need to stop talking over each other so the court reporter can have an accurate transcript of everything being said here. The DA, Mr. Mark Murphy, even, referred to him as, "You're in my courtroom now, buddy," which seemed to me, in my opinion, we're leading back to what I'm saying about how he seems to have something personally involved with this. I don't think it's proper to be, talking down to the defendant like that. And it seemed that he was trying to rile Mr. Coleman up, if you will, in regards to some of his remarks. So it was just ugly on both sides. And then his public defender sat there and did nothing. Absolutely nothing, ladies and gentlemen. I saw plenty of times where it would have been reasonable for his public defender to object just based on the fact alone of the DA's, the way he was being treated, the way the questions were being asked. There should have been relevance, argumentative, narrative, no objections whatsoever, just pretty much hung his client out to dry. That's why, I personally don't think it's a good idea to take the stand in your defense, because anything you say and do can and will be used against you. And if your public defender isn't going to help you and just hang you out to dry like that, it's not going to per se be in your best interest to do that. But every circumstances are different. But in just my opinion, from what I've seen, it's not good to testify in your own defense regardless, only in very certain circumstances. And in this case, I don't believe it necessarily helped or didn't help. I believe it pretty much just showed that regardless of, because this is the hard part, ladies and gentlemen, this is a case that involves mental illness, but we can't really argue mental illness because of the no NGI plea. It just shows that, in my opinion, I think there's a little bit of craziness from everybody in this case, not just the defendant. And the defendant is like, there's no dispute here really about what he did or didn't do. This whole defense has been whether or not he's been in the right mind to even understand what he did. Because there seems to be, ladies and gentlemen, a difference between psychosis and hallucinations. That was Mr. Coleman. One of Mr. Coleman's big points on the stand is that he was not hallucinating, rather that he was in a psychosis. Now, I'm no mental expert, so don't quote me on this. I'm not a doctor, but from my understanding, psychosis is a frame of mind, a frame of mindset when it comes to dealing with the process of information. Now, if I say the sky is blue and you say, cameraman, no, it's not. That's a form of psychosis. Now, if I say the sky is blue and you say, cameraman, no, it's not, it's actually purple, either you're colorblind, hallucinating, or the sky is actually purple. But more than likely, that's a hallucination, if you're not colorblind, with all due respect, ladies and gentlemen. So the DA, Mr. Murphy, he keeps referring to hallucinations, hallucinations, hallucinations. And on the stand, Mr. Coleman, no, I was in a psychosis. 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 What are we arguing here? Because when he asked, for example, Mr. Coleman, well, was a woman a threat to you? He said, I don't remember seeing any woman. I was in a psychosis. So then he asked the question again, and my thought is, well, if he said he's in a psychosis and he didn't remember, what good is asking that same question again? Because he said again, I was in a psychosis. So the DA's trying to, bring up hallucinations because, ladies and gentlemen, per the jury rules and instructions here in California, hallucinations can't be used as a defense to get off of murder charges in layman's terms. You can't, even though you're hallucinating, that can't be used as a defense to justify your actions. So that's kind of what he's trying to show is like, look, ladies and gentlemen, even if he was hallucinating, he can't be not found, to be not responsible for his actions. His hallucinations is not a defense for self-defense, as Mr. Coleman believes at the time he was being attacked by all these individuals on the bus. And they're trying to turn it into hallucinations, but if somebody's there, I'll put it this way. If I put my hand up to give you a high five, ladies and gentlemen, you may perceive that my hand is coming to slap you in the face. Now, that's not my intentions. I'm putting my hand up to give you a high five, but in your psychosis, think I was about to slap you. A hallucination would be thinking I was there and I was about to slap you in the face when I was really going to give you a high five, but I'm not even there at all. I don't exist. That's a hallucination. So this case is really brings in the light of mental health to be, you got to understand mental health to have some sort of degree of understanding of what's going on here with these word games, if you will. And which is interesting is on the subject of mental health, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in, by the way. I don't plan to go too much longer. No doctor has been brought up in this case. I mean, the doctors have been mentioned, but brought up to testify. No doctor from the people was brought in to testify in regards to Mr. Coleman's mental status. No doctor on his defense was brought in to testify to Mr. Coleman's mental status. So there's been a lot of talk by the people and the defense about mental illness, but nobody has brought in any of the doctors that evaluated Mr. Coleman over the course of the 2 years of these legal proceedings to testify to actually whether or not he was in a psychosis or was hallucinating, or wasn't hallucinating, or in a psychosis. He just simply didn't care when he decided to shoot people. I think that would be something pretty important to do if you're trying to prove or disprove the mental aspect. Because I believe I've mentioned this before, ladies and gentlemen, there's a difference between being insane and being incompetent to stand trial. And basically, that boils down to being insane in regards to, I think, ladies and gentlemen, there's a black skeleton behind me that's going to rip my head off if I don't do this live stream. That's something insane. Let's just, form layman's terms, if you will. Um, that's insanity. Now, if the judge goes to me and goes, Mr. Cameraman, we have you here on charge X, Y, and Z. Do you understand the difference between guilty, not guilty, and no contest, sir? Well, gee, Your Honor, I don't even know what court is. I don't know what I don't know what any of this is. I don't understand those terms. Oh, you're incompetent to stand trial. Now, that doesn't mean I'm crazy. I'm just, in lack of a better words in the court's eyes, an idiot that doesn't know any understanding of these proceedings. So when you hear the phrase, ladies and gentlemen, incompetent to stand trial, that doesn't mean you're insane. You're a schizophrenic. You're a Looney Tunes. You're so out there. You're hallucinating. That just means you do not understand the court proceedings on their functionality, and you refuse to accept that. That's what incompetent to stand trial is. Now, what's interesting about Mr. Coleman is he's seems to have a history of mental health, and I'm hopefully working to get that this mental health history here as an exclusive to you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Something that I don't think any other news is working to do other than myself. Because I've recently talked with Mr. Coleman over this weekend in visitation, because during his testimony, he brought up that there's a medical history that of himself that he has papers of that the people and his defense, I think, is not he thinks is not trying to make an effort to show this, and wants it to be known to the media. So I'm hopefully going to get those papers soon to see what the extent of this history. But during the visitation with him, he explained to me, ladies and gentlemen, that he was he's a product of the system. He's been in and out of the juvenile hall his entire life. He's only 23 now, ladies and gentlemen. Based on his press release, he don't look 23, but he's quite a young man. And in this time, he's on tranquilizers and all these different medications. And like a lot of cases I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, is these people, and it's the same with the jail here. These people are in a form of custody. They have access to the medications they need for their mental health disorders. They get released from custody because either they legally can't be, held there. Their time, they've served their time, or like in Mr. Coleman's case, he explained to me he aged out of the, ward. So, you're an adult now. You're not a juvenile of the, you can't be a juvenile when you're, 20 some years old. And then he, just pretty much gets kicked out on the street. Doesn't have access to the medications he needs, and then the imbalance happens. Like with a lot of people, these people go into jail, they get access to the medications they need, they come out of jail, they don't get access to the medications they need because either A, they got some other problem in their life going on, or commonly I've dealt with is these people are homeless and they relapse because they don't have anywhere to go. They just go back to bumming on the streets. They get that imbalance in their system, and then they don't think rationally. And then they go back to jail because they catch a new charge doing something in their, not right state of mind. And then they get the access to the medications again, and then they can clearly think again. And this is not just, a story I'm telling you. This is firsthand. People have told me, look, I was not in my right state of mind. I went to jail. I got access to the medications I needed. I can think clearly again. So this is, a situation where it appears, this was a case where, not where they're describing as he just got a phone call on the bus and decided to lose it and shoot people. This seems to be a case where this episode was building up because he didn't have the access to the medications he needed. Now, is that an excuse to say, oh, okay, everything's hunky-dory, that makes it okay? No, obviously not. Mr. Coleman is going to, have to account for his actions one way or another. But from my independent and objective observations, it appears that, if he had a known medical history that he needed these medications to, keep him, in a sane state, and he was let out to the public with, just pretty much, here you go, figure out everything yourself. It's surprising that something like this didn't happen sooner. But it goes to show that, this is a problem in America that isn't discussed, is mental health, and the fact that, people aren't getting access to the medications they need, and they go into jail and they get them and they come back out. And then it's this process that funds the prison to pipeline system because they know they won't get their medications on the outside. They'll screw up again and land themselves back in jail. It's all, it's a system, ladies and gentlemen. Here in America, we're the number one country, I think, next to China, leading in the prison to profit system. We incarcerate a lot of people in this country, the land of the free. We believe in freedom of rights and this and that, but we incarcerate more people than anybody. So this isn't just some, this just happened. This is a calculated, nobody calculated is going to escalate into a shooting on a public bus with many people on board. But this is, a strategy. If we, have people out there that are gonna screw up, we're gonna be able to make our bottom line. It's system. They don't, for lack of a better word, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't say it's a scam, but it's a money racket based around knowing people are mentally ill, going to screw up again, and land themselves back in jail one way or another. And it appears in this case, I would be shocked if there's a not guilty. I don't think the jurors in this case are going to vote not guilty, but I believe potentially we're going to get a guilty verdict for second-degree murder. That's the charge. They left it to the jury to either find him guilty in first-degree murder or second-degree murder, and find him guilty of a previous felon in possession of a firearm. Those are the charges the jury is right now deliberating on. So we'll have to see exactly, what becomes of this. But I don't believe there's going to be a not guilty, flat across the board. In this case, is going to be acquittal. Just the fact of the matter of the circumstances and the evidence presented to the court. Mr. Coleman should, it's pretty clear that the people have met the burden of proof. And I believe, in the evidence, in Mr. Coleman's own words, he's pretty much acknowledged that, he's, for lack of a better word, the one who did this. But whether or not that's truly him and the mindset there when he did this, that's one of the biggest arguments in this case. Because it seems the people have this real, strangle on, well, to be mentally ill, you have to be someone who hallucinates. And this is one of the factors in this case. But because of, him being found competent to stand trial, and the lack of the NGI plea, he's lined himself up, unfortunately, for a prison sentence. Nobody necessarily likes the state hospital, but if we were in a system, ladies and gentlemen, that was about getting people help, he would be sent to the state hospital for the rest of his life. And I think that's not out of the question. That's something, I don't know if they'll consider this at sentencing. We'll have to see. But I'm assuming if he's not pleading NGI, he's going to be sentenced like a regular person, and he's probably going to get, he's looking at, I would say, probably life. This is a lifetime case. He killed a person, he left one person paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of their life. He scarred an 11-year-old girl. Um, he shot one man, he got hit in the back of the head, which amazingly, he this one gentleman that was hit in the back of the head only needed a few staples, and the DA made a mention because the way some of the charges are, some people had gross bodily injuries, and that generates that charge. But the gentleman who was hit in the back of the head, that needed staples, that was not a gross bodily injury, but everybody else's were. So I think that's a little interesting because I think the head is, brain, you get injured anywhere up here, ladies and gentlemen, it's lights out. Your brain is like a computer hard drive. If that thing gets damaged, it's very hard to recover. But surprisingly, it was only minimal. So that gentleman, that victim was not, there was not a gross bodily injury charge generated from that, but three others were. So that's an interesting factor here, but it's interesting to see, how this is going to turn out, and it's really this case really mainly formality because I believe there's some power to settle this differently, but those powers that be decided to we're going to make this a trial, and there's some other things I can talk about more, but I might save those for the longer video, or after this we might be doing a live stream later announcing the verdict. But one last thing I'll mention here, ladies and gentlemen, is that this case, when it first happened, the Mike Ramsey, the head district attorney, the DA of Butte County, was originally the one that was going to court every time on this case, hearing it, but the last like 3 or 4 court dates before the trial, this all got confirmed for trial. There was a few people that substituted in for him, and now then it was handed off to Mark Murphy. So it was really, it was perceived by the people that, in general, the general public, not people as in the people of the state of California, legal term, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Ramsey himself was going to try this case. But for whatever reason, he decided that he only wanted to be involved in the beginning procedures and not see it through, and handed it off to Mr. Mark Murphy, who is, in regards to rank at the DA's office, ladies and gentlemen, he's, there's prosecutors, which are referred to as deputy district attorneys, which Mr. Mark Murphy is, but he's like the second in line to being, Mike Ramsey, the head DA. So he's like like Mike Ramsey's the manager, Mr. Murphy's the assistant manager, and all the other deputy DAs are the employees in regards to rank, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, in layman's terms. So it's not like this case was passed off to like some guy in the back office. It's, the second in command's handling it. But the head in chief, he paraded on this case, kind of like as if he was going to run an election campaign with this case. Like, this is why you should keep me in office, because I'm fighting hard for your safety and prosecuting a mass shooting case. But it got passed off to, his second in command, which is a little bit interesting, but, maybe there was an something else going on there that, I'm not privy to that made that decision. But a lot of people, me included, thought he was going to actually prosecute this case himself, but he didn't for whatever reason, which begs the question, is Michael Ramsey's position as district attorney of Butte County an actual position where he's an attorney and prosecutes cases, on behalf of the county in the state of California, or is his position more of an administrative one, where yes, he's the district attorney of the county, but he don't show up to court. He just, signs the complaints that come across his desk. And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Ramsey makes a point of that all the complaints in Butte County either are reviewed by him personally, or one of his deputy district attorneys before they're filed at court. So there's a good chance that if you're charged, your complaint went across his desk to be reviewed and signed. So other than that, I guess that begs the question: is that really prosecution or administrative work? Because anybody can just sign a piece of paper that says go ahead and do this. But him specifically being an attorney to bring charges, that's what makes his signature special. But here with this case, why why not? Why not show the public that you still got it? I mean, he's no, for the record, ladies and gentlemen, those who know Mr. Ramsey, he's not afraid of cameras. He loves the cameras. I mean, there's one very old news article that I was able to dig up, sent to me, microfiche, that old, where he was admonished back when he was a deputy district attorney before he became the head district attorney, where he, the judge was getting on him for laughing in court and smiling, and he's like, I like the cameras. I find proceedings amusing. So, where is the man himself? But quite an interesting trial this has been. Maybe we'll get a verdict today. Maybe we'll be back Thursday for further deliberations. Either way, I will be here to bring you that verdict. I'm going to probably be heading out now. It's been a good press briefing, I say, a little advisement, letting everybody know where we're at with the case. Whether or not I'll be back today with the verdict, that remains to be seen. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I think that pretty much covers some of the real meats of the issue, some of the juicy bits. Look forward to be bringing you that verdict. Like I said, this has been the cameraman reporting live here in Oroville at the Oroville Courthouse. Hope to be speaking with you again soon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, we'll see verdict later, verdict Thursday. Don't know. It's only been about 30 minutes, and before I started going in, before I started doing this live stream, it only been about 20 minutes since the jury went to deliberations. So it's really been only about almost an hour now. So we'll have to see if they get done at 4:30. If not, we'll be back Thursday. So if there's not a live stream from me by 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, ladies and gentlemen, then you'll know we'll be back Thursday. If not, this has been the cameraman reporting live from the Butte County Courthouse here in Oroville.